Are you looking for an easier way to roast chicken so that way it stays juicy in your Weber kettle? I'm going to show you how without using any fancy gadgets, just good technique and fire control. Half chickens are pretty similar to spatchcock chickens where you remove the backbone first. I found that spatchcock chickens are a little bit too fiddly on the grill because as you pick them up, they end up flopping around. So if you take a spatchcock chicken and take it one step farther, you can cut it in half and have two half chickens. And the way that you do that is you cut down just to the side of the breastbone, which exposes those ribs, and then you can cut through them and you've got two chicken halves. If you don't want to go through all that work, you can buy chicken quarters at your grocery store, but that's usually just the drums and the thighs. And the first secret to juicy chicken is in the preparation, and I always dry brine my chicken. That's where you coat the outsides, both the top and the bottom, with a little bit of salt, and then you put it in the refrigerator. You want to do it for at least 30 minutes, but leaving it in there for 4 to 6 hours is better. And what that does is it dries out the skin on the outside, and it also allows that salt to get soaked in deep into the meat so you have nice, flavorful, and juicy bites throughout the entire chicken. And you could add seasonings at this step, but I found that it starts to stink up the refrigerator and people you're living with may not want you to do that. Out of the kettle, we're gonna set it up for indirect grilling, and that means the fire is gonna be on one side and the food is gonna be on the other. You do that by lighting about a chimney of charcoal, but don't let it get fully lit. Once the smoke starts to die off, it's probably ready. You want just a little bit of white spots on all the different coals. That way, when you pour it in on one side, it'll give you enough heat, but you won't spend so much time burning up that charcoal that you'll still have plenty of fuel to last throughout the entire cook. Then I'd like to add a little bit of smoking wood. My favorite is pecan because it goes really well with chicken. Then put the lid on and let the smoke die down just a little bit. You're gonna wanna set your vents to 3/4 open on the top and the bottom. That'll get you to about the right temperature range. On a Weber kettle, when I'm setting it up for indirect grilling, I always like to make sure that on the lid, the thermometer is gonna be over the coals and the vent is gonna be over the food. And the reason for that is you get better airflow. So you have the heat over on this side and it's gonna travel up over the food and go out the vent on the other side. You get much better convection and airflow by setting it up this way. The one drawback though is with the thermometer over the coals is gonna be wildly inaccurate. It's gonna read a lot higher than the actual temperature that's over on the side that has the food on it. And for this cook, I'm trying to set it up so that way it's between 275 and 300 degrees over on the side that has the food on it, which is gonna read about 400 degrees here at the thermometer. It's a good 100 degrees hotter than on that side. And you're right, that temperature is pretty low for roasting chicken, but I found that it works a lot better to slowly heat up the chicken and let the smoke do a lot of the good work so you can get more flavor. And it also ensures that you get a juicier bite. And this setup also allows me to direct grill it at the end, so that way when the chicken is getting close to temperature, I can put it directly over the coals and get some nice char and crisp of that skin, if that's what I'm going for. And that turns out really well that way. And once the kettle's preheated, you can add in the chicken. And on half of these, I used a really peppery rub from Salt Lick, and I found that goes for a lot of other things for leftovers later. In this case, I'm setting it up and I'm going to make it into some chicken pot pie. On the other ones, I'm doing a more traditional barbecue using a regular old barbecue rub, and then I'm going to sauce them up at the end so that way I can show you both ways of preparing chicken on the Weber kettle. And when you're roasting this chicken, you want to plan on it going between an hour and a half, depending on how big that chicken is. You're also going to want to flip that chicken over about halfway through the cook because having those coals on one side is going to produce a lot more bottom heat and it might get a little bit crispier than you want. That allows it to cook nice and even. Of course, if one set of chicken is cooking faster than the other, you can swap them around so that way things cook more evenly between the different pieces and they all get done about the same time. Now, if you're glazing the chicken, which I absolutely recommend, you're gonna take your favorite barbecue sauce and then cut it with just a little bit of apple cider vinegar, somewhere around like a tablespoon or two per cup of barbecue sauce. That makes it nice and thin so it goes on very smooth and easy all across the surface of that chicken. Then I'll just paint it over the chicken and making sure I get all the sides covered, and I'm gonna cover it back up with a lid and let it cook for a few minutes so that way it sets. I'll do that maybe 2 or 3 times, and then when the chicken comes off, I'll give it its final coat so that way it's nice and shiny, and it gives an amazing sticky glaze that is really good on barbecue chicken. If you want a little bit more char, or if you're hoping to get a little bit crispier skin, you can take that chicken and pull it over to the side that has the coals and cook it directly over there on both sides. You're gonna wanna go a couple of minutes at a time, not much more than that, or else it might burn. That's extra true for the one that you put the barbecue sauce on, because barbecue sauce generally has sugar in it, which makes it more apt to burn very quickly, so make sure you keep an eye on it. In a perfect world, I want the thighs to be at least 175 degrees Fahrenheit, and then the chicken breast, I'm gonna pull that when it's somewhere around 162 or 163 degrees Fahrenheit. That's because it'll continue to cook even after I take it off the kettle. And I'll always test that temperature in a few different spots in the chicken breast because it's really easy to find a hot spot and then end up taking it out too early. So I'll go with wherever I find the coldest part of the chicken breast. That also means I'm going to cook it to a little bit higher temperature than I would if it was a boneless, skinless chicken breast. Anytime you have a bone, it's really easy to take it out a little bit too early. And you got to remember, we're serving food, not food poisoning. So look at that, golden skin, smoky aroma, and really tender meat. This is a flavor that made backyard barbecue famous, and it's a big reason why you would want to go with this method rather than just buying a rotisserie chicken from your grocery store or local big box store. And if you're looking for more secrets in getting the most amazing chicken breast, here's the video about why I don't cook my chicken breast to 165 degrees Fahrenheit.